Hello. Okay, so in this session, what we're going to do is a quick texturing tutorial and how to first paint textures in layers, and then also to use multiple images and layer those as textures. Okay, so once you've got your cube, you go into the shading panel. Here, it would change to your viewport shading. So what you want to do up here is you want to select this box over here and change this quickly to edit UV editor. And you want to go into edit mode and you can actually see the UVs. So this is the 3D object flattened into a 2D shape. Okay, that's going to be important later. I'm going to go back into object mode. The first thing I want to do is drag out from my principled BDSF the yellow dot of base color and click on or search for image texture. Okay, so you just search for image texture color. All right, and then from there, you can just create a new image. Let's just call this color and click on new image. And then from here, you want to go from object mode to texture paint. And don't worry about this. This is for the next bit of the session. So I'm going to get rid of this texture. Let's get rid of this. All right, so you wouldn't have that, but you would have this. So I basically clicked on that white arrow on this side, and you can also, there's one on this side. And it brings out your paintbrush and your fill tool. You want to click on your fill tool and you want to change the color. Let's switch it to white and let's fill this with, let's say, blue. Okay, so now if I go into the other end of the color spectrum, like yellow, if you mix blue and yellow, traditionally you'll get green. However, because you're working with additive colors, you're going to get slightly different. Let's change this. You're not getting green. Yeah. The reason you're not getting green like you would traditionally do is because this is additive. So all digital programs are using additive color systems. And subtractive color is when you combine two colors and you get a third color like blue and yellow makes green. Okay, but that doesn't work with additive colors because the main color or the main source of color is light. So we're using white light. And when you mix these two colors, you actually get something different. So I've actually got the strength down to 50, and then you can keep mixing it on. You can just get brighter versions of yellow, but it actually just goes into darker versions of yellow, or less saturated versions of yellow. When you mix it on with blue. So keep that in mind when you're mixing two colors. Okay. All right. So that's the first part of this tutorial. Okay, it's just simple painting colors using Blender. Okay. Now the next part is actually going a step further, and then you want to click on the folder, and you should have like a brick texture. I'm going to use this. Let's use this brick texture actually. Uh, so let's say you've got this brick texture. Right now it's got no normals, no bump, no real definition to it. And to change that, you can create a normal map. So Uh, here's a little hack I use to make normal maps. So I usually go onto like Photopea or something online or Photoshop, and let's say I open from computer this brick texture, and then I just do filter, 3D, and then normal map, and it just creates a normal map for me. So it's handy. And there's other tools that you can use. Um, I might export this as a PNG and just call this brick normal. Okay. So what I can do from there in Blender is drag out the normal and just do click on normal map to create a normal map. And then I can drag out the color and then just do search for image texture color. um, for that. And then I can just open that normal map for the brick that I just created in my downloads. So that's going to give me a little bit of depth for the brick. So if I change the strength, I can get some more realistic looking bricks there. And that's great. The next thing you want to do is from vector on this image texture, you drag it out and you search for um, mapping. So you want vector mapping. Okay, so you can type in vector mapping and you get mapping vector. And then from there, you want to drag out uh, coordinates. So CORRD, and then you want to do texture coordinate UV. So it's going from UV and creating a texture coordinate, and you want to select and connect that to both image tabs. Okay, and then here in scale on your texture mapping, you can actually control how often these bricks repeat. Okay, so now you've got repeating bricks, which makes the cube look a lot bigger straight away. On the z-axis, you can rotate this by 90 degrees. And now you have bricks that look like it's going around the house, which is great. Okay, so that's the next step, just having this system up. Texture coordinate, mapping, two image textures. You want to have both the vector um, links between those two images. And then you can connect one to color and one to a normal map, which connects to normal. And then you have your material output. All right, cool. So remember that graffiti image that you saw earlier? So what we're going to do is we're going to add that graffiti texture on, but we're going to paint it on this stuff. Yeah? So there's a way you can use this paint tool to add that on. So if I click on add shader, and then you can go to, it should be mix shader right here. You can add a mix shader on there. I can also duplicate this Principled VDSF shader. So I press Shift D, and I can bring this shader up, and I can connect this shader down here. Okay. And what this shader is going to do is it's going to hold the other image texture for the to allow me to paint on. So remember how I painted on the colors earlier? I'm just going to drag out, type in image texture, texture color, and I'm going to search for just create a new, and I just call this graph for the graffiti image texture. Okay. All right. So now my bricks are a little bit darker and I've got no graffiti on there. So what's up with that? So what you want to do here is give yourself an alpha that you can use to actually paint that texture on. So you can click on this drop down for texture, click on new, and then here it's got show texture in tab. Click on this, and then you click on open and go to the resource that I provided, the graffiti resource, and you can click on that. At first, you should get it as view plane. You want to click on this drop down and select stencil, and that should give you a stenciled preview. So now the reason why it's got no background is because it's a PNG image. So be careful to select a PNG image with no background for this. And then from here, you can just paint on your graffiti, and you can change the strength, and it should paint on a bit brighter. Okay, so you've got your graffiti artwork on one side. And then if you've got any other images that you want to use, so let's say I just choose a different stencil, let's say this one, you can also, if it comes in a bit squashed, you can click on image aspect and then you can assign it to the correct image aspects as well. Okay, so that's pretty much how you would use um, two images to paint on textures onto a brick wall. Okay, and let me see. All right, yeah. So One thing uh, else is that you're basically, or the main issue that there is now is the fact that this painted texture doesn't seem, it just seems to be quite transparent or like, a little too faint. So if you wanted to brighten this up, it's got a lot to do with the factor. So if I drag factors up each side, um, you get that effect, which is not what we want. So you just want to change this to 0.5 on the factor. And to fix that, you can use, I want to say, search for attribute, a color attribute, and you can use a color ID. So basically, what a color ID is, if I go to Vertex Paint, I can also use, oops, I can also use that image texture. So let's say this one. Let's go to stencil, and then let's go image aspects, and I can paint on, let's say, in the color blue. I can use like a color ID. Let me see if I can line this up. Should be able to paint on a color ID onto, let me see if I can do it right. Hmm. Vertex Paint. All right, yeah. Okay, all right. So there you go. All right, so I would need like a higher definition object to do this. So let's say I go into edit mode. I think there should be a better way of doing this than what I'm doing now. So let's say I give this a high fidelity. Let's go into object mode. Or let's get it to Vertex Paint. From here, I should be able to use this color. Let me go back to my image viewer. Let's line this texture up. Let's go back to Vertex Paint. Yeah, I can paint it on. Okay. And this would work like let's choose a different color, like a red. This would work like a color sort of blocker, or like it will basically say, I want colors to show up on this side, but not on this side. So I can click on attribute. Let's go to texture, and then let's put that in the factor. And then here, in attribute, I can choose like a color ramp, and I can choose how brightly or dark, or like how much the image focuses on that color based on this color attribute color ramp. Let's say I want to choose alpha. Let's see what, no. But yeah, basically that's kind of one way of doing it. I've used this before for some like sort of other techniques, but there you go. You can kind of see, like, if you play around with these sort of color ramp, you can get a sharper look to the color. Let's go here. Maybe it's, yeah. Um, I didn't say it was an exact science. But that's one way you can like sort of like isolate and then like different textures. Let's see the B spline if that works. Yeah, this part is tutorial is like extremely experimental. B spline, linear, let's see, linear, like I'm basically using these curves to try and isolate this texture. Oh yeah, that's one way I would try and go around brightening it. I'm sure there's other ways, but that's one way I would use. You can also change the color of these, and you can just bring this down to like gray, or you can bring this black up to like a brighter color, and there you go. You can get some more interesting sort of effects there. But basically, I'm using the vector color as a sort of an alpha as well. Yeah. Yeah, so you can see this is a bit like more pronounced than the other color, which is a bit more faint. And that's where one way I'll do that. But anyway, that's it for this tutorial. On the next episode, I'll go through how to add it to like add interesting little texture imperfections to cars and houses and stuff like that. All right, see you next time.